Room 442 is brought to you by North Star Bets. That's a win. Hello there, football fans, and welcome. What a Saturday it won't be, because all the games go on Sunday, Super Sunday as they call it. James Sharman, Michael Singh, Albert Vatanian, Sarah Peraria. Yes, the final weekend of the Premier League season. Still lots to fight for. At the top, it's about the Conference League. Yeah, that one Conference League spot. But we won't talk about that. We're talking about the other end of the table, the relegation spots. It's so tight. Southampton, of course, already relegated. Leeds, Leicester, Everton, 3 clubs, 2 spots left. Everton take on Bournemouth. Leicester take on West Ham. Leeds take on Spurs. All the relegation fearsome 3 are at home this weekend, and here's the odds at the moment. Teams to be relegated: Everton on the outside looking in, of course, with a points advantage at plus 300, Leicester minus 670, and Leeds fans, I'm sorry, it's not looking good at all, minus 3,335. Is that fair, do you think? I mean, to me, Leeds are the team most likely to go down at this point, but listen, there's 2 spots available. Birdie, I know you got money on this. I know you have. You're a degenerate.
Oh, thank you. That's nice to see.
What are you thinking?
All 3 of these teams have winnable games. If they all win, it stays the same. So my thing is, I don't see Everton dropping points at Goodison Park. I think they win that match against Bournemouth. Not saying, I know the narrative is that Bournemouth have the flip-flops on. They're on the beach. I think there's still going to be a competitive game. But I can't go against Everton at Goodison Park. I think Leeds are more than capable of beating Tottenham based on, if you look at the form table alone, Tottenham's given up the most goals over the past 6 games. And the final matchup, you have Leicester against West Ham. What's West Ham going to give up against Leicester? I mean, they have the Conference League final coming up in a couple of weeks. Is there going to be heavy rotation? If there isn't, how hard are these players going to go? Are you going to risk a Declan Rice? Are you really going to do that? I'm not sure. So I can see all 3 of them winning, and I think the table is going to stay the exact same after Sunday.
Sarah, is it that straightforward? I mean, they are odd matches, right? Because, like you said, 3 teams that aren't really very, very good, the opponents here. 3 teams with not that much to fight for at this point. Spurs, of course, are fighting for, like I mentioned before, the Conference League at the moment. But you look at the teams that are fighting this right now, they've all replaced their managers. No manager's been a great success so far. They're all very much on the cusp right now. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's tricky to analyze as well because the teams that they're facing, whether it's West Ham, Bournemouth, they don't want to go out of the season losing a match. You want to go into the summer also winning a bit on a high. But as Albert mentioned, Bournemouth, West Ham not fighting for anything right now. So yeah, I think they are going to slightly have half their foot on the gas pedal there. And it's everything for Leicester, Leeds, and Everton. They have to fight for it. But Albert's right. If they all go in and win these games, it's Leeds and Leicester who are going to head down just because of the way it's already gone. And the fact that Leeds has now gone below Leicester, which only changed over the past weekend, it's incredible.
But Leeds, I mean, Mikey, they came up a couple of years ago now. It's not that big a surprise, even though they were doing so well under Bielsa. Since then, Jesse Marsh didn't work out. They got Big Sam in charge now. You can see them going down. But Everton and Leicester, outside of Albert Vatanian, I don't think anyone had them going down this season. Which would be the biggest surprise, do you think, out of those 2 teams, Everton and Leicester?
Everton would be, just based on just the amount that they've invested in their roster. Leicester, you can kind of see the writing's been on the wall a couple of years. They go through this amazing stretch where they go and they win the Premier League, and then as inevitable as it was when it comes to these types of clubs and the size of these clubs, they lose key pieces and key players. Now, the clubs who are really good at maintaining their form and their identity and becoming a Premier League team year after year is that they're able to go out and replace those players with more players who are filling those gaps. Leicester haven't done a good enough job of doing that this season. They've tried to hold on to guys like James Maddison, who, by the way, is probably going to move on from Leicester this season, but he's made a difference. Beyond that, have there been enough players that are making real differences for Leicester? I don't see it. Everton, meanwhile, you look at their squad, you look at the talent, you look at the amount of money they've invested. They had Frank Lampard as coach at the beginning of the season, which
seems a long time ago.
Seems like an eternity ago. I think they would have been the bigger surprise.
Let's hear now, though, from the current Everton manager, Sean Dyche.
Our messages have been consistent, I think. Consistent to the players about delivering performance. Working with them all week, they're in good spirits, they're in a good shape, good physical shape, good mental prep. And to the fans, same thing. They've been terrific. I've never questioned the fans here. They've been terrific since I got here. They've been terrific, probably before me. But their affection for the club, their desire for the club to do well is there, and the team's got to respond to that and give something back, and that's what we're looking to do.
Yeah, Goodison is the X factor here for sure. Sarah, you have some money on this one.
Yeah, so I am saying Everton will win this, and I'm going for the under here because, we know that Everton aren't a high-scoring team, but at Goodison Park, the fans are going to get behind them, and they're going to do everything they can. They will literally leave it out all on the pitch, so I think Everton should be able to get away with this one, but I do see a low-scoring affair. You actually disagreed with me, though. You were like, this could be a 5, a 3-2.
Because at the end of the season, these games can get crazy.
They can get crazy. Who knows?
What if Everton goes down 2-0,
But it's
right?
a Sean Dyche team.
It is a Sean Dyche
You know what they're doing in this one.
Yeah.
Mikey, you're just doing this. One last chance to stick it to me.
No, you guys took all the relegation teams, so I had to take one that's already going to be relegated. We know
Okay.
Southampton's fate. The sign seal delivered. They're going down. So I'm actually taking a long shot this weekend. Southampton to beat Liverpool. Like Southampton, Liverpool already know their fate. They're going to be in the Europa League next season. There's nothing to play for both these sides except Southampton sending off James Ward-Prowse on a high
Oh,
note.
Jesus.
Bertie is sending someone else on a high
You
note,
had to
right?
say it, didn't you?
See ya,
It might
Harry.
be Sayonara, Harry Kane. I don't know who's going to win here. I think Leeds are capable, Spurs are capable, but one thing I do know for sure, Harry Kane's going to score a goal, and that's usually what he does. You can get him at plus money, and I expect tons of goals in this one, so you can pair that with the over 3.5 goals.
I love that bet, actually. Yeah, I have West Ham to beat Leicester straight up plus 265. That's really good value for West
really
Ham, who's a
is.
better team than Leicester, and they will play, I think, their stars because you don't want them being rusty ahead of the Conference League on June the 3rd, I think it is, so it's a while off, right? Yeah. So it's a while. We'll see, but big games and big points and lots of drama. Okay, when we come back, it's to the summer. We'll look forward, okay? What's happening this summer? What personalities will make the news throughout these hot months? Room 442 is brought to you by North Star Bets. That's a win. All right, the summer's almost upon us. So many storylines to look forward to. Managerial changes, obviously player signings, player transfers, and free agents, right? There's some big free agents available this summer. I know it's not a term we use too much in the football world. It's more North American sports, but the bottom line is a lot of big names are out of contract, okay? Perhaps none bigger than, of course, Leo Messi. He kind of highlights the list right now, although somewhat quietly because only so many clubs can afford him, of course. Luka Modric, he's a free agent. Karim Benzema as well. I imagine they'll both re-sign with Real Madrid, though. Ilkay Gundogan, better than Xavi, as Sarah says.
Oh, my goodness.
Could be on the move. He's likely leaving Man City. Yuri Tielemans, the £100 million man, according to Mikey Singh.
$100 million
Sorry, dollar. Oh, I thought it was pretty sure it was pounds back when
pounds
you made that preposterous prognostication. N'Golo Kante could be interesting, actually. Wilfred Zaha as well, another interesting one. Which of the free agents, not just those, I mean, listen, it's a big list. Who's the best value? I mean, if you're, forget the super clubs, they can afford whoever they want. If you're just a decent club with a bit of money to spend, where's the value?
On that particular list, probably Yuri Tielemans because of his age. I mean, that's unfortunate what the price might be because he didn't have a great season, but you can put that on the team, the managerial changes. I do like that. I mean, obviously, if you can get Lionel Messi, that is probably the guy you want to go after and get if you can for a couple of seasons. But I was also looking, you sent a list out with I think 30 free agents on. I saw Marcus Thuram's on there.
Yeah.
25 years old.
Excellent.
Out of contract. I think he scored 16 goals this season for Borussia Mönchengladbach. I think if you can snap him up at a decent price, let's say 40, 50 million, that's a guy you have for now and the future.
I don't know, Ilkay Gundogan. I mean, that is pure talent.
I love
he will
him,
make
right?
any team better.
But just the age I'm a bit worried about.
Not yet. I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. Through the rumor mill, of course, I heard potentially Barcelona might be looking at. I got excited already just thinking he could change any team. He can be such a factor to any midfield and make them better. I think he's class.
Super underrated.
Yeah, I
And the
think
way he
so.
plays, he's not like dynamic or incredibly athletic. So the age, obviously, gets to everyone eventually. But I don't think his game will suffer straight away. I think it'll be more of a slower decline. Right? He's so smart. He's a cerebral footballer.
I will say that N'Golo Kante on there, if he didn't have injury history,
Yeah.
I think he might be number one on that list. If he's 100% healthy, to me, I still think he's...
More than Messi?
If he's 100% healthy, he's the best defensive midfielder in the world. N'Golo Kante.
Well, can he stay healthy?
You
right?
look-
Well, that's what I'm
a
saying.
question.
I don't agree.
Perplexed right now.
I don't agree.
That's not a crazy statement.
I think it's a little bit more upset. I think his years are behind him. I don't think today he was he at one point. Yeah, I could hear that argument, but Come on, look at what Casemiro, Rodri, look what they're doing. There's no way you can tell me N'Golo Kante.
They're healthy, though, is what I'm saying.
I get the feeling, though, Kante is one of those players, he's had pretty much a year off, right? I just have this feeling that wherever he goes, he's going to be a real
he's a good
force
player,
still.
yeah.
Probably.
Maybe not what he was back at Leicester and his early Chelsea days, but could still be a really important figure. What about you, Mikey? Where's the value for you?
I'm with Albert. When you talk about value and you look at free agents, one of the things I've learned is you really have to look at potential, right? And talking from someone who covers Toronto FC, who signed a couple key free agents, you got to assess what they're going to give you, not what they've done so far. So with Albert there, I'm with Yuri Tielemans, just 26 years old. He's a guy when he was coming up through the ranks in Belgium and then to Atletico and now to Leicester, like he was a guy whose potential everybody was talking about. And when I say he's probably $100 million midfield, I think he is on the right team. So if a right team picks up Yuri Tielemans, which it sounds like a top 4 teams are after him, I think he's a guy that can take that next step in his game and become one of the best midfielders, honestly, in the world.
He'd look really good actually in the Spurs midfield. And Spurs will make a lot of signings, including their manager. Right now Arne Slot ruled himself out this past week. I look at Brendan Rodgers, Sarah. We'll get to you, don't worry.
No, that's fine. I'm happy you asked Sarah.
I look at Brendan Rodgers, and at plus 400, I like what he's done. He's coached big clubs. He's won the FA Cup with Leicester. I think it's a much better gamble than an Ange Postecoglou, who's coming from Celtic, who's done an amazing job there, obviously, but that's Scottish football, a very different level.
Yeah, I agree. Well, earlier in the week, we were talking about how Tottenham might need a bit of a lesser known name, somebody that isn't, as making the headlines as a Jose Mourinho or a Conte. They need someone a bit more down to earth, and I think Brendan Rodgers is exactly that man. I saw Luis Enrique on that list, but apparently he's now heavily linked to PSG. Who knows what that?
Don't do it.
I
Don't
hope,
do it, Luis.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that might be a bit trickier for him and Tottenham. They don't seem to go, like his technique for football I don't think would fit at Spurs, but Brendan Rodgers I'd say would be a better fit. Do you not?
My two, I would go with Brendan Rodgers or Graham Potter. Honestly, you see what Daniel Levy has done. He tried his hardest. I'm going to bring in a big name, Mourinho, which I still believe was for the all or nothing Amazon thing. Regardless, it didn't work out. Sack him before the Carabao Cup final, which Mourinho brought up earlier this week and wasn't happy about, clearly. And then you bring in Antonio Conte, and that didn't work either. These types of managers who are serial winners, they have big demands. And Spurs, they can't give them what they want. So if you look at a Rodgers, you look at a Potter and what they've done with a limited budget. Now you go to Spurs, probably bigger than they're used to. Rodgers made a deep run with Liverpool and almost won the Premier League. Potter was phenomenal at Brighton, and I don't like this recency bias thing where all of a sudden Potter is no longer a good manager because he failed at Chelsea. That is one of the most difficult jobs in the world right now. Even if you're a top manager going to Chelsea, to fix that mess, you got to get rid of players and you got to figure out how you're going to put together a team while trying to manage the guy up top who wants to sign every single player. So with that said, I think Spurs are done with the marquee signing. I think you need to look at someone who can come in with the right idea, attacking football, doesn't need a big budget, and can, build the overall culture once again and the morale at Tottenham.
One thing about Potter, though, is he signed that long-term contract with Chelsea. He makes lots of money. He doesn't need to work right now either. And he'll want to get back in the game at some point. But I could see him doing a year in the media rounds, perhaps, or visiting other clubs and absorbing some of the other information from other big clubs and becoming a better manager, because does he need that project right now? That's a big project without perhaps Harry Kane.
Yeah, so when you mention the word project, the thing that comes to mind for me is a guy like Luis Enrique, and if they can pry him away and get him, then I think you absolutely have to take that shot. This is a guy, when you talk about Tottenham Hotspur football, you talk about their attacking style. Luis Enrique, when he coaches teams, the football that they play is so unbelievable. Now the question is, will his game and tactics translate well to the Premier League? Because we haven't seen it yet. Maybe, maybe not. But I do think Tottenham needs something different, and he does bring something different to that. Also, just throwing this out there, willingness in, he's not on that list. De Zerbi. Maybe he's a guy that the Spurs can pry away from Brighton there.
If you're Brighton right now, you're doing all you can to convince him to stay, because there'll be a list of clubs. I think starting with Napoli, actually looking to bring him aboard.
The Italian links are there,
yeah. So it's a great call, though. I mean, listen, he'll eventually move on. Hopefully not this year. I think we discussed it before, didn't we? But what a year he's had. Harry Kane. The rumours right now are Chelsea or Manchester United. Chelsea or Manchester United. I mean, he stays in London, where he's obviously from, and he's happy, and his family's happy, but it's going to a rival from Spurs. He's a loyal guy, or it's up north to the team that you love, of course. Where do you think he ends up, or is it somewhere else?
Yeah, I mean, rumors are out there. Real Madrid is potentially looking at Harry Kane as well. So one of those three teams, I think, is going to be his ultimate destination. Selfishly, of course, I'm hoping for Manchester United because we know what Harry Kane can bring. Chelsea, the fit is also natural. They need a striker. They have a lot of pieces around there that look like they could be potentially really good pieces in the Premier League moving forward. So the fit is also natural, but will he move to another London club? That would probably rub a lot of Spurs fans the wrong way. Real Madrid's interesting because Karim Benzema, and he's a free agent as well this season. So who's going to replace him? Harry Kane is a guy who can step in right now and potentially fill that void.
United should do whatever they can to sign Harry Kane. I think if Harry Kane was on the team this year, they'd be challenging for the Premier League title. You take his 28 goals and you insert that into this Manchester United squad, that's 84 goals in the season. It would take him to second just behind Manchester City. One of the best defenses, one of the best home records, one of the best away records. What were they missing this season? Goals. I think they're 7th or 8th in the Premier League. Now you insert those goals, and I think it's a completely different team. I really believe United are a striker away from being a Premier League contender. I just hope it's not Harry Kane.
Any chance he stays?
I mean, there's always a chance he stays. I'd love to see him go to Real Madrid, though, just to get out of the Prem and just go to a different league, but I doubt he will. So he's English, and he's living in the UK, and his family are English. It doesn't seem like it makes sense. Yeah. I think Manchester is where he's going to go. He's not going to go to another London club. I can't. He's loyal.
It'll be fascinating. Okay, when we come back, we'll look back on the previous season and what was the big story. What's been the big story across the Premier League this past 8 months or so? Room 442 is brought to you by North Star Bets. That's a win. The people have voted out of the following which was the story of the Premier League season, and no doubt about it, the Room 442 faithful say Erling Haaland arriving in English football 43.3%. Arsenal's title run, they're in first place for 248 days this season. That's the second biggest. Chelsea's decline, of course, down to being a lower half club this season. And Ronaldo Gate, which seems like a long time ago right now, doesn't it? That's way down there. Are you surprised by that, Sarah? Is Haaland the biggest story in English football this season?
Well, I think so, because I voted for that.
How many times?
Just once. Oh my goodness. I was going to ask, did you guys vote?
I voted for Arsenal.
What did you vote? Can I ask?
Haaland.
Haaland.
Yeah, okay. It was between the two, I think, as well. But no, I'm not surprised. And I think the only thing is that every week we spoke about Haaland scoring another goal or a brace. In fact, I think we got used to it. But I think looking back on the season now, we can't take away what he's done. It is so magnificent. But I think it's just become a norm for us every week talking about it that I don't think we realized, like, taking a step back and thinking, wow, like, look at what this guy's actually doing. This hasn't been done in the Prem.
There was a moment there where we were talking about Haaland not being a fit for Manchester City. He was on a bit of a goal drought.
Silly.
Yeah, for a couple of games. And then was like, is it Nunez or is it Haaland? And oh my goodness.
I had money on Nunez being the golden boot winner.
Charms.
Yeah, didn't turn out too
disappointing,
well.
but this is not
but
about
you know
Nunez.
what? I mean, we did discuss that, though, because there was a time when they weren't playing great. He was playing fantastic, scoring goals for fun, but they were still kind of languishing around the periphery of the top four for a while there. And I believe we all said, though, yeah, but it's Pep. And Pep knows what he's doing. He's not just going to bring a player in and hope for the best. He will change the way his team plays. And that takes time. And they did that. And in the end, I mean, listen, what is it, 24-game run right now? They are unbeatable right now. He's got it right. And now Haaland is the center point, I think, of that team. It could be De Bruyne. When you think of City right now, who is the most important player?
KDB.
Yeah? Back it up, Sarah.
I think so. I mean, I think half of Haaland's goals come from Kevin De Bruyne, but I also think he's the conductor, kind of like, of the orchestra. Like, he's pulling all the strings. Haaland and what he's doing is incredible, and without him, would they be where they are now? I don't know, but I think Kevin De Bruyne's role is more influential to the entire team and everyone and how they play, versus Haaland is just basically scoring the goals. And I don't mean to say that just in like an easy way, but you know what I mean?
One-dimensional a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, he can spray a pass, but he's not going to compete for most assists, is he?
But no, that's the thing.
Exactly.
Do you not?
I'm with you, KDB, because Erling Haaland doesn't create his own goals. maybe 52 goals. Is that what he's got?
Yeah.
Yeah. So those 52
Easy.
goals.
He's got a game left though. Plus
the
FA Cup
majority
final.
of those
It could
And
be
the Champions
60.
League.
he gets fantastic service, and one of the guys providing that service is KDB. And we see KDB when he steps up in big games, like we saw him do in the Champions League against Real Madrid, shows why he's the most important. And as good as Haaland is, I think KDB is still the best player on that team.
Do you think KDB is comfortable being called KDB? I don't think he is.
No,
Calling me Kevin.
Kevin.
Yeah, I think you guys are crazy. I think it's absolutely Erling Haaland. He's scoring goals at a rate that we have literally never seen. And, the way that you guys make it seem like it's so easy to just finish off those chances that KDB and others are creating. No, Erling Haaland is there to finish off those chances. You put another striker in Manchester City's system, they're not finishing off with nearly as many goals as Erling Haaland is. And I understand KDB's such a great player and an important part of that team, but there are other midfielders in the world that can probably maybe not be as good as KDB, but can fill that void in a Manchester City team that's as cohesive as they are. I don't know how many more strikers can do what Erling Haaland does.
Harry Kane.
That is an argument. How many goals could Harry Kane score in this
If
City
he had-
team? It would be a lot.
yeah.
Would it be 52? He'd have more assists.
So his goals, Kane's goals, have contributed to 24 points for Tottenham, just as much as Erling Haaland. So make of that what you will. For Manchester
Ooh,
City.
I like that.
Very
Propaganda.
interesting.
Yeah, listen, when you score 42% of your team's goals, I mean, you're not just a good striker.
Yeah. But I mean, like, we haven't seen anything like Erling Haaland.
No.
There's no doubt about it. And he's still so young. I mean, what do you expect from him next year? Isn't that exciting? As he evolves. He
Scary.
hasn't even grown into his body yet.
And who
I
are they
hope he
who are they
has.
going to add?
He's massive.
Who are they going to add, too?
Yeah.
It's funny because City aren't linked with too many players. The biggest names are always linked with them to a certain degree. Bellingham was for a while there, but it
Pep
looks
gave
like
a
that's
really
Real
big
Madrid.
hug to Alexis McAllister.
I saw
Okay,
Josh
what is
Gilbert
up with
do-
Pep's love affair at Brighton?
He knows what he's doing.
Pep loves
Pulling him.
Brighton.
He needs more Argentinians.
But it's a little bit weird, isn't it?
He loves his
He
De Zerbi.
loves Brighton
Yeah.
and
He's
loves
talking him up,
Deserving.
and it's making De Zerbi cost that much more, so Brighton loves it.
Yeah, of course they do. McAllister would fit in that midfield.
Oh, perfect.
He'd fit in any midfield, let's be honest here.
Yeah.
Pretty decent. Arsenal. So Arsenal, they came up short in the end. And listen, the viewers, they love their Arsenal. You love their Arsenal because you vote for them as the biggest story. Is that just because of how long they're in first
Yeah.
place? Or because in the end they came up short?
I know it's true, but we talked about them the entire season, and it was always like, when are they going to slip up? When is this run going to end? And it never did. And they took them not down to the wire, but pretty close to this Manchester City team who right now looks unstoppable. And for weeks and weeks, we thought this is Arsenal's league. And that's what happens when you have Pep and Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne. This is what happens. But Arsenal deserve a lot of credit because they weren't even supposed to be in this position. A top four finish would, the prediction would have been a bit of a struggle for them. And look how they ended the season. So I think it's hard to go against what Haaland's done, but Arsenal's been at top of the headlines for the entire season.
Well, they were fifth last year, right? 69 points last year.
Yeah.
Right? It's a decent season, right? Fifth. And second place now in 81 with one game left.
Crazy.
That's a massive turnaround.
What's the bigger story? Arsenal's resurgence or their slip up at the end of the year? Because they had like an 8-point lead with like 7 games left.
It was
or
a
something
3-game
like
stretch,
that?
right? It was the draw against Liverpool, Southampton and West Ham. 3 draws in a row.
What's the bigger slip up?
Honestly,
What's the bigger story?
I can't say, but I'd say looking back at it just from this point, it hasn't been too long, but I say it's their resurgence. Arsenal hasn't been this dominant since 2004, and they were dominating while playing really good football as well. They weren't just getting the job done. They were playing really creative football with such a young team. Mikel Arteta had his second season as the manager, youngest manager in the Prem. When I look back, I think, because now I am as well, but I think I'm just going to remember, oh my God, remember that season when Arsenal just came out of nowhere and potentially started what now may be, their next couple of years of being like a dominant Premier League team. Are they going to win in the next couple of years? I don't know, but I think they're going to be fighting for the Prem and they'll be competitive in Europe, which we haven't seen, and that's the biggest thing. Arsenal has been 6-4, 5-4, whatever, for so long that I think now just how well they're playing, that's what's important.
I feel like the slip up was expected.
That's precisely it, right? We've seen it before, and the naysayers and the hardcore Gunners fans out there were saying it's coming. Don't worry, it's coming. So when it happened, they weren't that surprised.
Yeah.
They were surprised though by the previous 230 days when they were playing brilliant
Still
football,
here.
right in the first place. Great story. and a team that's going to get better as well. A young team. They're not going anywhere. Like Sarah said, Mikey, they're not going anywhere, this team. And if they can invest in the right places, Alexis McAllister, Declan Rice is being mentioned, right? This team, I think, they're in the City era, right? Where great teams won't be considered great because they won't be winning championships. And there's been a lot of teams who have fallen victim to that, and now maybe it's Arsenal's turn. Fair to say?
I think so. This season especially, like we've said on this show, I think it was their best chance to win a Premier League title. They had it. Man City was wobbling through the first half of the season as they tried to integrate Erling Haaland into their side. Now he's integrated, and I don't think they're going to be really looking back too much. Plus, again, the Manchester Uniteds are probably going to take a step forward. Chelsea, who knows what's going to happen with them. Liverpool looked like the Liverpool of old through the last stretch of this season. So it's going to be tough, I think, Arsenal to really replicate what they did this year.
It's a big 7 now, isn't it?
Who do you think challenges City next season for the title?
Well, Newcastle might. I didn't even get them on the list there. Ran out of space. If there were 5 options, I would have put them in there.
You think they're going to challenge City for first place in the Premier League?
Well, it depends what they do this summer, right? They've got money now to spend.
Yeah.
Are they going to challenge them? Listen, Arsenal challenged them. Liverpool have challenged them in recent years, despite them being great. They'll be challenged.
Think it's them. I think it's
I
Liverpool.
think they'll still be favourites. They're going to enter the season as favourites.
It depends. If Harry Kane goes to Manchester United, that is spooky for sure.
I think it's Liverpool United.
I think it's Liverpool United as well.
Yeah.
Arsenal
let's see Arsenal.
Arsenal will be in the mix. I think they finished top 4.
Why do you think Liverpool, given what happened this year? I know they played better recently.
Yeah.
Players leaving that team.
Sharms, they dealt with so many injuries. And you got so many players, one being Darwin Nunez, who's still getting adjusted to the team. Luis Diaz was out for so long. Salah was not really at his best, even though he was still incredible. So I think once you go into that midfield, you bring in some better players, so add some squad depth. You still have a world-class team there, world-class keeper.
Manager.
You have a manager, you have Van Dijk. All the pieces are there. I think they need a healthy season behind them.
What about Chelsea? No one's mentioning Chelsea.
That's the thing. I don't know. It depends.
card.
Poch is going to go in and I think clean that place out, but whether it's going to be good or not, I don't know. I mean, how can this team not turn themselves around with the talent on that?
The bar is really low. The bar is really low.
Yeah,
do we have to start talking about Frank Lampard as one of the worst Premier League managers
He
ever?
is. I've been saying it.
There's been some pretty bad ones.
He's
been
not
given
a
the
good
opportunity
manager.
that they
He's
weren't
somebody
given.
that should not manage.
No, I wonder if he stays there in some capacity. You know,
I think that's what's
Locker
best for
boy,
him.
cleaning out the
role. I
jerseys.
mean, he is uber competitive though, right? He'll want to prove himself somewhere, but it might do him some good to work under Poch for a while. But again, will the ego handle that? Because you're being the head coach not once but twice. Hasn't worked out either time, and now you're going to say, okay, now I'm going to be the number 2 or further down the scale. I don't know. I don't know what the future is for Frank Lampard.
He's got to stop putting himself
TV.
in such tough positions, taking the toughest jobs. He even said himself when he first took over Chelsea, they didn't really want him. It's because all the other this came out of his mouth. He goes, the other big managers didn't want the job. He's like, I understood that. Then he goes to Everton, difficult job, and then comes back to Chelsea in this capacity.
If Frank Lampard was coaching Man City this year,
no.
No, absolutely
not
not.
champions?
Don't you
Oh,
dare.
come on.
Are you joking?
they're a pretty good team. It's not just Pep.
Look what Pep did with John Stones. Don't you dare. No chance. No way. They wouldn't win.
We'll never know.
No,
will we?
sure.
Can you go home tonight and play FIFA
Yeah,
and put
we'll
Frank as your manager?
I'll let you guys know.
Yeah?
It's always the video games with Mike.
Can you do that?
All these video games. I don't know why.
Very quickly, Ronaldo gate. It seems like a long time ago. About 30 seconds, Mikey. Are you over it?
Yeah, definitely, just because of what Erik ten Hag's done, and I'll end it by saying this. Manchester United definitely had a better season than Arsenal. Throwing that out there.
Man United did?
Man United had a
One
better
cup,
season than
maybe
Arsenal.
2 cups.
Maybe a final.
Tough to argue.
A
Champions League final.
Third place,
Yep.
right behind Arsenal.
Interesting.
We're out of time. We've got to move on. But I like that,
Spicy.
actually. Sarah, when we come back, it's your turn. Would you rather?
Would you rather?
Room 442 is brought to you by North Star Bets. That's a win. All right, welcome back to Room 442. Time now for Sarah to take over the show for a change. Let me guess Barcelona questions. It's would you rather, Sarah? Take it away.
Well, now I'm gonna come up with
yeah.
only Barcelona questions now, James, just for you. No, okay. Keeping it Premier League, a little UCL. So, I guess, Mikey, I know the answer for this. But Albert, who would you rather see win the Champions League final? Inter or Manchester City? A little bit of why.
Inter
Milan.
Because everyone is picking Manchester City. I got to go the other way.
So that's simply why. Not because Man City had an amazing season, maybe playing the best football, maybe deserve it.
They are the best team in the world.
Okay.
It's hard to disagree with that. But I love an underdog story. And who wouldn't want to see an underdog win the Champions League.
agree.
And when it comes to a final, throw everything out. It doesn't matter. It's a one-off game. Inter can sit back the entire game, push it to penalties, and win that way. We've seen that happen before.
I'm not asking you to describe how an
Sorry.
underdog can win. I just want to know.
Who would you rather?
Yeah, Mikey.
I would rather Inter.
Doing a
I'm just
preview
gonna
of the Champions
casually.
League final now.
I'm gonna casually just skip over you
Yeah,
because I know it's
we know.
Inter, of course. James.
I would like to see City win. I like legacies. I actually don't mind your dynasty, because when they come crumbling down, it feels even sweeter. And I think City needs to have a European Cup. I want to see the fans who have been, resentful of UEFA for so long. I want to see if they still resent UEFA when
All
they lift
60
that
fans?
championship.
They'll be doing the Poznan as they
Yeah,
lift it.
exactly. And listen, and Pep's Pep. Who can not like Pep? They are the best team this year, playing the best football. He's redefined certainly English football, if not European football. Let's give him another Champions League. Let's all the naysayers shut up for once and say, yes, he is the best, and move forward. And then they can lose every game from now on onwards, but I wouldn't mind seeing them win the Champions League.
What about another trophy for Lautaro, man? Huh?
boy.
My boy.
Hey, listen, big
All
one last
right,
this week.
Mikey. Would you rather see Leeds or Everton get relegated? I'm just assuming Leicester are going down. Sorry, boys.
Would I rather see Leeds or Everton get relegated? Both clubs with rich histories. It's honestly for the Premier League. I'm not sure anyone's winning by either one of these clubs going down. I would rather see Everton go down because I think that club needs a bit of more of a wake up call. They were in this position last season, and they got bailed out. I credit, sure, they played well to get out of that position, but 2 years in a row, you're finding themselves in this position for a club that invests the resources that they do into their club. Not good enough. So I know that Everton going down, they'll be back. Leeds, it's a big shock to them. They haven't been up as long, and I think there's been some, they haven't had some consistency with that club. And I feel like if they can get the right manager in place, they put the right resources into that club, they really could get back to being something special, which Leeds, of course, was back in the
Before
day.
we get too happy about a team going down, that one of Coventry or Luton are coming up, right, in the playoff championship, which is fantastic. Later today, fantastic, good for them. It's Luton or it's Coventry, right? I grew up watching these teams in the old First Division in the Premier League. It's great, it's lovely, it's a nice
black
story.
and white
But Leeds
TV.
is huge, and I'm so happy they're back in the Prem. Everton is huge, albeit my team's arch rival, right? And Leicester have brought such great memories. I don't really want to see any of them go down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think we don't emphasize how devastating being relegated is, because if you look at Everton's wage bill right now, about 90 to 95% is because of revenue, and they're going to lose that once you get dropped down. That's going to change. I mean, you're bringing in 100 million to 5 million. You're going to lose players. There's going to be relegation clauses involved. And what happens is, as we saw with Leeds some time ago, it takes forever to come back up because you can't, it's hard to bounce back from that financially. I'm with you. I don't want to see any of them relegated. But for this purpose, because I have to pick, I'd rather see Leeds, because who doesn't love Everton and Sean Dyche?
Oh. All right, James. Would you rather see Roberto De Zerbi or Eddie Howe win the manager of the season?
Oh, that's a
Good one.
great one. What about Thomas Frank?
No, I had to pick two.
Okay, it's
It
two,
would just
okay.
get too crazy.
De Zerbi. Does De Zerbi deserve it? He deserves it, all right. He's taking over quite... when did he take over? Was that September?
October.
October, was it? Well, Eddie Howe, who's taken the Magpies from a dysfunctional unit to third, fourth place in the Premier League. Oh, man. I'm going to say Eddie Howe. Just the jump, their jump has been bigger than Brighton. Brighton were good last year as well, don't forget, under Graham Potter. Really good. The way they play football, yeah, I know. They play beautiful champagne football, and they're wonderful. I think Potter, Howe has put more time in, and I would give it to him this year. But it's a close second with De Zerbi, and there's a real close third, There's some really good managerial performances, despite all the firings this year. and two of the guys I'd vote for, being De Zerbi and being Unai Emery, have actually replaced managers at clubs this year. So it's been a good year for managers, despite the firings.
Yeah.
Mikey, I think I know who you might say, but tell me why.
Honestly, Pep Guardiola is probably going to win it, and probably is
It's
deserving
ridiculous,
of it.
by the way.
It's probably deserving of it. But yeah, I mean, you have Ten Hag that's also in the mix too. You have obviously Mikel Arteta and what he's done there. For me, between these two guys, of course, I'm going to go with my guy Roberto De Zerbi, man. Like we talk about Brighton as, you mentioned he takes over in October, but do people remember what happened between October and January with that club and the amount of turmoil that was going on with that club? It wasn't just De Zerbi that took over for Graham Potter as well. It was Graham Potter's whole coaching staff that was stripped from that club. So it's taken De Zerbi a little bit to really instill his philosophies, and his style of play is quite frankly completely different than Graham Potter's style of play, and we're seeing that play out. And it's gotten to the point where Pep, as we talked about in the show, he's saying that De Zerbi is changing the game in the Premier League with the way that he manages football. So from a sheer managerial standpoint, the way that he's been able to handle personalities like Moises Caicedo, who was on Twitter, was on social media saying that he wants to leave the club, and has got Moises Caicedo to buy back into what's going on, what he's been able to do with Matoma and get the best out of him. Alexis McAllister we just talked about. For me, it's Roberto De Zerbi, and I think he's the guy who, if both of these guys were free agents next season, De Zerbi would be the more coveted manager. So for me, he's manager of the year.
Yeah, I'm with De Zerbi as well, but I think Steve Cooper deserves a shout for what he's done. He should have been sacked 10 times over, but it didn't happen.
Got a new contract.
The thing with De Zerbi, I was just looking at their wage bills, and they're just over $35 million. Bournemouth, Leeds, Southampton, Fulham, Forest, all above Brighton. That's a huge gap. And they're finishing 6th in the Premier League. They're making Europe. This is Brighton, who came to the Premier League, 2-3 seasons ago? So I got to go with De Zerbi. Not only has he been producing results, but it's extremely attractive football, which is very hard to do when you're a club who doesn't have a big wage bill like the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Let's try and get through some of these a bit quicker. You guys have so much to say, and I'd love to hear it. But I also want to ask you these. Speaking about some transfers in the summer, I think it was you two talking about this earlier, Mr. Mason Mount. If you're an English Premier, if you're any side right now, if you're a coach, would you rather get Mason Mount or James Maddison?
Ooh. Oh boy!
If you're looking for an English midfielder,
tough. Aren't they the same person? Yeah, you never see them both in the same room at the same time, do you?
No.
Well, it's kind of generic English midfielder, aren't they? You know.
I think I want to go with Mason Mount. I think people have forgotten how good Mason Mount actually is. He hasn't had a great season. So much turmoil at Chelsea, so much turnover. 10 million midfielders coming in. But when Chelsea won the Champions League, he was probably one of the keys to them win the Champions League. And he can play multiple positions too. He can play in the 10. He can play off of the wing as well. He can play in a false 9. I love James Maddison as well. It's a tough one, but I'll probably go with Mason Mount.
You know who made Mason Mount too?
Who?
Frank Lampard.
Ooh.
Derby County.
There you go.
Yeah. He also had a tough year personally, right? He was stalked. He was. There's some social media nutcase who's been stalking certain Premier League footballers.
So does that add to why you would want him more?
Yeah, he lives an interesting life, obviously.
Like you.
James Maddison's a baller, man. I love James Maddison. That's tough.
For me, it's James Maddison. I think you're paying for guys who can make differences in games. And Mason Mount, while you're right, he's extremely versatile, and there have been seasons where he has put up some really good numbers, but James Maddison has the potential to make a difference with a single moment, and for me that's the difference maker here. And we've seen James Maddison do it with Leicester, right? He's yet to be surrounded by real quality pieces, quality players, that runners that can get on the ends of balls consistently, that can make smart runs. I would love to see James Maddison at a top 4 club, a big club, and we've seen Mason Mount do it for Chelsea, and we know this is sort of where he is as a player. I think James Maddison has another level in him.
All right. Yeah,
good answer.
Harry Kane. If you are Mr. Harry Kane, would you rather go to Real Madrid or Manchester United? If it's up to you. James, we'll start with you.
If I'm Harry Kane, I would rather go to Manchester United simply because I want Shearer's record. Mm-hmm. Simple as that, right? I mean, listen, going to Real Madrid, what a life. I mean, that would be pretty special, right? I mean, just the lifestyle.
Nothing
living
like
in Madrid.
siestas and sangria.
Yeah, I mean, out of all the clubs,
look at Bale, though, Sharms. When Bale went there for a British footballer, it's not all great.
Not all, and you're right. Not all British footbllers can adjust to that lifestyle abroad, right? Who was it? It wasn't Gary Lineker. There was a famous footballer in the 80s went to Ian Rush, I think it was. Ian Rush went from Liverpool to Juventus. And when he came back, they said, so how was he? He goes, I didn't like it. It was like living abroad. It's like, you were living abroad, Ian. That's exactly what you were doing.
Yeah.
But not many Brits actually make it over there, right?
Yeah.
So Manchester, and just owning that record means so much to him. you probably guarantee yourself more trophies at Real Madrid than United. But at the same time, I think you will pick up some trophies. And that's all we need. Just give Harry one trophy.
Jeez.
Doesn't matter what it is. Give him the Conference League. Give him something.
If I'm Harry Kane,
Try and keep the bias out. I know it's tough.
I still think it would be Manchester United just because of the records, right? He's so close to putting himself among, let's say, like the best striker right now in the Premier League of all time. He's so close to accomplishing that feat. So at Manchester United, where he could potentially win some trophies, I think it's Manchester United. Although number 9 shirt for Real Madrid, we know what that means, and it's very tempting. But I still think, based on what he's done already, it's Manchester United.
Yeah, a clean sweep. I'm going to go Manchester United for the exact same reasons these guys are talking about. He really wants that record. I don't think he wants to move out of England. And I think when you look at Real Madrid heading into next season, they're probably going to re-sign Karim Benzema. Do you want to go there and have to deal with that? Like, are you going to fight for your spot as Harry Kane? Not saying that would be the case. Maybe they can play on the pitch at the same time. But I think, yeah, it's Manchester. He's probably going to stay in England.
All right, fair play. We talked about the Champions League, so it's only fair we talk about the Europa League. Going into the Europa League final, would you rather be Sevilla or Roma? I know your answer. Tell me why you'd rather be Roma.
Jose Mourinho. I just want him to keep on winning. I hated him for a little stretch.
You know
after
who
he
has
left
the most
Spurs.
Europa League trophies? Sevilla.
Yeah.
So would you rather not be that team that knows that this is their tournament?
Now, who was the manager during those trophies?
All
It was Unai Emery, wasn't it? For most of them?
Not for,
Yeah.
but for most.
For most of them,
But
yeah.
still, they've
Yeah.
You know who's never lost the final?
until this, I'm so confident Sevilla's going to win. I'm so confident. I don't know. This is their.
Yeah, if I had to pick a team to win, it's probably Sevilla, but it's Mourinho. I want Mourinho to keep on winning. I don't know why. But
Let's
it's just
see.
the storyline continues.
It might be his last time with Roma, anyways.
Could be, yeah. I wonder where he goes next. That'll be interesting too.
PSG.
Yeah.
Can I be honest? I couldn't care less.
Oh, dear.
I couldn't care less.
That's a shame.
I like your
That's
honesty.
a shame. Your team was
Back me up here.
competing.
Tell me
No,
you won.
I
If
couldn't
it was
agree with you more.
if it was
Thank you.
Manchester United
It's
playing
a
in
game.
the final,
It's a
you'd
game
be
I'm watching
going.
because I have to.
You don't have to watch it at all.
No, I kind of have to.
No, you
Mourinho
don't.
won your side a Europa League title.
If
was a
Manchester
great
United
Europa
was in
League
the
tournament
final,
that
you'd
year.
be watching
It was a
it.
great
Oh,
Europa
that's
League
a
tournament
shame.
that year.
Disrespect.
Yeah,
Quality
I don't
was
know.
way
These
better.
guys at the other side.
Big disrespect.
Okay. One last question. I don't want it to be this one, so I'm going to choose the last one. Sorry, Ellie. Would you rather play with Ronaldinho, Zidane, R9, or Scholes? Quickly.
Zizou, without question.
Woo! Mikey?
Zizou's favorite midfielder, Paul Scholes.
Ronaldinho, because I will look attractive beside him.
Ronaldinho for me as well.
Yeah,
I feel like you
crazy.
just have so much fun playing with
Oh, he
him,
would
and
be,
he
yeah,
would just be
exactly.
doing. He's such a fun player to watch. But yeah, Zizou's yeah.
That was fun. I like
Yeah.
those, yeah. Good selection, though. I mean, you can't go wrong, right? Any of those players.
Yeah, no. Oh no,
Even Paul
I wanted
Scholes,
it to
eh?
just
Wait,
be
of
Paul
course,
Scholes
man.
was like the
Oh, man,
last
it's
option.
Zidane. It's Zidane. It's not
one
even
player
close.
going
Spray a
into a
pass out
tackle
to
for you, it's Paul
That is
Scholes.
for sure. All right, we got about 3 minutes left after the break. I don't know where we're going, but we'll figure it out during the break. Room 442 is brought to you by North Star Bets. That's a win. On Saturday, Toronto FC take on DC United, but on Friday, it all kicked off. More reports of disharmony and dysfunction in the team between Italians Lorenzo Insigne, Bernardeschi, the manager Bob Bradley, the captain Michael Bradley. Mikey, you're close to this team. You're there every day at training. What levels of dysfunction are we talking about right now?
Yeah, I think what you've read in the story is all fairly accurate from my understanding, and I think they do an excellent job there at The Athletic of illustrating what's happening right now at Toronto FC, which is, as you summed up there, dysfunction, and it's at its highest level. Like, this team, going back to maybe a couple of seasons ago, dysfunction was also the word that you could use to describe what was going on behind the scenes at Toronto FC. Dysfunction in the locker room, arguments among players, a group of guys that weren't showing up to training. Like, there was a lot that was going wrong there with TFC, and it stems not just within that locker room, as I touched on, but beyond that, with all the coaching decisions that have come since those years. So yeah, it's not in a great place right now, and of course when you're losing, that just catapults.
Can this be fixed? Because, from what I've heard, what you've heard, from what we read in the column, I don't think it can be fixed, quite honestly. There's a deep chasms of frustration between these personalities. I don't know what the solution is. Is it you just fire the manager? but then you have the captain, his son, still there as well. What is the long-term outlook for Toronto FC right now?
Yeah, when you asked me earlier in the week, when Sarah asked me, would firing Bob Bradley fix all of this, my answer was no, because there's bigger problems that are at play with Toronto FC right now. And you're right. I don't think that just firing the manager fixes those problems. And I'm not sure. I can't think of any sort of quick solution that would fix all these problems aside, again, it's the saying, winning heals all. Aside from starting to win matches. You win matches, and I'll refer this to the 2017 treble winning team. That dressing room was not harmonious by any means necessary. So if you win, it fixes a lot of this.
It does, but it's a mess right now. And Bernadeschi and Insigne had big issues together last season. They've crept into this season now. The manager's involved. It's just it's a dumpster fire. Let's just call it what it is right now, a dumpster fire, and it'll be a fascinating team to follow in the coming days, weeks, and certainly the next few months. Room 442 is brought to you by North Star Bets. That's a win.